Hey everybody, I'm going to try doing this without making too many mistakes. One of the first mistakes I have to admit to is the winding that you're seeing in these videos is not going to be a 48 volt wind alternator. This is going to be for a 24 volt. It's the same basic principle. You would just have to increase the winding number. And depending on how many amps you want out, reduce or increase the diameter of the copper you're using. So, what you're seeing in front of you here, if you take a stator from an alternator and you take all the copper out, in between each slit, you're going to wrap copper every third slit all the way around the stator until there is 7 nodes up top and 7 nodes below. And the copper wire reaches itself one way all the way around. That's considered one wind. Now, an alternator uses 6 winds of 14 gauge copper in order to achieve 12 volts, 110 amps. That's what this alternator stator was meant for. Now, what I'm doing is I've doubled the amount of winds per leg, and I've reduced the size of copper because I only need about 15 amps, 24 volts for this alternator. This is a custom built alternator. So what I've done here is there's 12 winds per leg on this alternator, and in order for that to occur, I wrap this spool of wire from one nail to the next nail and then back again, and that's considered one wind. I do that 12 times. So you do that for each leg. In other words, you wind 3 loops of wire, big huge loops of wire with 12 winds on it each, and that's going to be wound into your stator. What I'm going to show you is how to do the very first leg. So what you see here is the loop of wire with 12 strands of wire on it, and that represents the first leg of the alternator. And as you can see, the stator that's on the counter, I'm going to slip that loop inside there, and I'm going to start with one slot, and then every third slot I will be bending like a snake the copper and looping it in and out all the way around the stator until I'm complete. Now, the reason why I have to apologize to everybody, the reason why my camera angles aren't exactly the best is due to camera problems that I had recently and microphone problems. Of course, they were all attached in one. So I'm doing the best I can with what I have. Now, as I said, I had to do a little bit of editing and skipping forward due to camera problems and the fact that my big head kept getting in the way. So as you can see, it's wound in and out like a snake, or somewhat like a sine wave. And I'm just bending this by hand. Every third rung, copper gets shoved in there or wound in there. Now, I must admit, doing this by hand isn't exactly the best way of doing it. It gets the job done, but you do have to do some adjustments at the end to make sure that each node is basically balanced with the other so that they're all the same. That's why I'll be doing a second video with a template that makes it much easier, much more uniform, and much cleaner. As you can see in the end, it's not exactly sunshine and rainbows when I'm done, so to speak. I do the best I can with what I have. Like I said, I wanted to make it so that anybody could do this. I don't want people thinking you need some sort of special tool, or anyone can do this. Takes a little work, a little bit of grit and spit, so to speak, but if you got the will to do so, it can get done. Again, I apologize about the angles. I'm losing a little bit here and there. You guys aren't seeing it, but I'll pull it back into frame as soon as possible here. The next video I do that's done on templates, you won't see me shaping it by hand. It'll all be pre-formed and sort of slip into the alternator easier. The second last leg going in. And you just sort of, you have to work in those 12 strands into the slots, and once they're in there, sort of form it so that it doesn't want to pop out. There are these plastic sleeves, they're protectors that go in between the copper and the two posts of steel to hold the copper in. That way when the rotor is spinning around, it's not touching the copper, and no plastic or nothing. I'll do a little demonstration shortly to show you what I mean and exactly what these protectors look like. Now, I knew about the other way prior to doing it this way with the template, but again, I wanted to make it as simple as possible so that anyone could see that anyone can do it. It's just a little tough on the hands. Alright, so I'm coming to the end of the first leg, and what we'll do next here is I'm going to skip in video because this is kind of where the camera started dying again, and I've gotten all 3 legs wound in the next video, I believe it is, and this is it here. Now, I apologize to the audience that I didn't show the last 2 legs being wound on the stator. When I do the next video with the template, I will do all 3 on video. Maybe even live. We'll see. And like I said, many of you out there could do much cleaner job. But here it is with the plastic protectors slipping in between the 2 posts. As you can see, they kind of look like half straws, but they're a little bit of a stiffer plastic. Although I'm sure you could use straws if you couldn't find or if you didn't have these protectors. So I'll demonstrate them going in. As you can see, slip it in there and just push in with your finger. And as long as it's nice and level with the rest, you ain't going to have an issue. Now this is the stator complete. I have it all soldered and heat shrunk, and I'm going to put it into the casing. Now, I could have put this in the vise and made it a lot easier on myself. I wanted to do with the minimalist amount of tools, so I used a screwdriver, and I was looking for a 2x4, but I didn't have one handy, so I used an old wood level to represent a 2x4. Just in case you didn't have a hammer, still get the job done. Now, when you're hammering the stator into the case, it doesn't want to go in level because, of course, you're hammering it in at different points and different times. Just keep banging away at it. You'll get it in there, and once it's level, your rotor will spin nice and evenly. As you can see here, it's stuck. It doesn't even want to spin, and that's because the stator is all, well, it's not level. So as I bang away at it and level it off and get it properly put into the case, so to speak, you'll see that the router itself spins freely. And that will complete the second part of this alternator wind. The third part will be me putting the last piece together with the brushes and the little trick with the brushes and the nail. Something I learned from another YouTube video that made it so much easier. Something I think everybody should know. Alright everybody, so we're coming to the end, and I conclude the second part of this video of the alternator wind. Thank you for your time, and I hope you all have a great day.